Boo.
Welcome to the Unwind Online podcast. My name is Shakey.
And I'm Tiz.
We are on
And
episode 7. Episodes? I think it's episode 7. I always forget
Is
every
it?
week, but I'm just guessing. Episode 7, and it's TwitchCon week.
well, almost.
Which is exciting.
What?
Are you ready? Are
Yeah.
you ready for it?
Oh, for TwitchCon. I was like, for who? What? Podcast? Yeah, we're talking, aren't we?
No. I am flying in 2 days. You're flying in
Are you getting there Thursday?
sometime.
I'm flying in Thursday.
Thursday.
Going to Amsterdam
You're
first.
flying into Amsterdam. Yeah, I'm flying to Rotterdam.
Is it?
Which
Was
would be
it
nice.
cheap? See, for me, it was way cheaper to fly into Amsterdam, so that's why I'm just doing that and then taking a train over.
No, it was pretty good for me this year. It was pretty good. I had it wasn't a bad flight at all. Return it was pretty decent, but I'm flying from a London airport that's a bit
Oh, okay.
further away, so
Gotcha.
I'm to go a little bit further, but it's
checks
fine.
out.
But yeah,
Neat.
so TwitchCon week. So this is exciting. It's all kinds of people saying that you're going to be there, and a little bit of nervousness and anxiety and excitement all rolled into one, and
So much socialization.
getting ready to drain our
Yay.
social batteries.
Oh, it's
I'm
gonna be
so
good.
dread. Next, if we do, we'll do like a podcast type thing when we're there. But then when we do our next podcast, I might be like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we
Don't
were
talk
talking
much.
about we'll try to do like a
Something like
special
that.
episode. We might just go interview a bunch of streamers or something, find a good topic, and have our podcast be more like, hey, we're at TwitchCon, we're just asking all these streamers lots of fun questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big thing with cons is I always worry I'm gonna get sick because cons are just a cesspool of all the germs.
So much. Well, there was a bug last year.
Yeah.
Everyone was sick
last
last
time TwitchCon. Well,
Everyone
actually
was
no, it wasn't
licking
last
each
year. But the
other.
year before. But I definitely got COVID the Vegas one because somebody had it.
Right.
And it just
Yeah.
around the whole con. So I'm
Just spiral.
especially if
yeah.
I'm in the middle of traveling. I'm like, please. I'm like trying to take care of my immune
Oh, it's
system.
the worst thing.
Hoping I might bring like a mask with me just in case for some travels. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, actually, I've got some Twitch masks, so yeah, I could bring those.
We'll just be so cool. Well,
Yeah.
like, listen, I just don't want the con flu, all right? But yeah,
The con flu.
it's a thing. It is
So-
a thing. So today,
What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
So I had a random idea to. The topic will be the one thing that changed everything. So this kind of idea that, and it'll be like a way that you guys get to know us a little bit more, a chance to tell some stories. I was thinking about it. I was like, I actually don't know these things about you either. So it'll be fun for us to get to know.
Be like a little, yeah, like
It's
a little story
this is little
time.
story time. So basically,
A
this
little bit of lore building.
some lore of the one thing that changed everything about different things in life. So I figure, well, we can talk about
Okay.
one thing that changed our streaming careers, the one thing that changed maybe relationship stuff or like family or career and it's kind of a fun practice to just think about how these moments in life can affect all these things or have like a really big impact. Because sometimes I think it's very small things, but they have the huge ripple effect. So that was kind of
Well,
the
it's
idea.
all about shaping us as to who we are today, really, isn't it? And how we got to where we are, and what makes us as a character, and how that kind of how we're built as that person we are,
Yeah.
and how people see us on streams or in real life or when you meet us.
How we
and
see
some
ourselves.
of you will meet us this weekend.
and-
Some of you are going to meet us this weekend. So yeah.
I always like my question
That
to
sounds
ask
good. I like
people
that.
is always, am I the same as I am online? Or like, how do you think I am versus like the online persona kind of thing? Because I think everyone shows up a little bit differently. So it's kind of,
Yeah, that's interesting.
it's a
isn't
fun
it?
experiment to see. Some people are much more, because we hide online all the time, right? So we're much more shy in person than we are on camera or in stream.
Yeah, I've said what I've said to people as well, because I think a few people, when people met me last TwitchCon, there's because we are the streamer and we'll say what's going on. We're doing this game and this. That people have a tendency to say like, "What do you want to do this weekend?" And I'm like, I don't really mind. What do you want to do? And they're like, "Oh, but you should decide." I'm like, I don't want to decide. I just
always-
want to be. I want to be one of the crowd. I want to be one of the viewers. I don't want to I don't want to decide anything.
It always reminds me of those the vultures from Jungle Book. You know what I'm talking about? They're like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know. What do you want to do? All
Yeah,
the
we are
time.
normal people. I'm normal. I'm normal. I hope I come across the same way off
Well,
stream, but
eh,
hopefully,
normal-ish.
unless I've just woken up or I've not had a coffee or I'm exhausted, then I should be okay. Hopefully.
So that's a lot of.
Tiz will have a few things to say on that, but that's for another time.
We'll see. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so I was trying to figure
So-
out which direction we go. But maybe we start origin story, like a villain origin story, where
Let's
like
okay. Well, let's go with your
what's
origin
the
story.
earliest
Kick us off where you want to kick us off.
earliest moment that you can think of that changed a lot of things? Because the first, if I just go snap, I feel like this is like an exercise of like, what's the first thing that pops into your head? And for me, mine was actually homeschooling. I was homeschooled for the first till 7th grade, and then I went to like an expeditionary school, which basically means I did a lot of adventure trips and field work and stuff, which was really fun. And then went to a public school halfway through 10th grade because I wanted to go for sports and to get more social skills. But I think what was really cool and what was really pivotal for me about doing homeschooling as I was growing up was this idea that I think I wasn't influenced as much by everybody around me, because I think like your very beginning formative years are you're kind of looking to everyone else to see what is cool and how you should act and what you should say and all of that stuff. And I had a lot of friends in my neighborhood, so I had a lot of kids that I was still growing up with. So it's not like I didn't get any like socialization, but my mom let me pick what things I wanted to learn. And you have to do like standardized testing every couple years. So you have to do like your multiplication tables, and you had to be able to prove that you were actually learning the things that they teach you in school. But also, like the things that I hyper fixated on, I loved learning about sea otters and orca whales or killer whales. And
It's cool.
I was a big marine life person when I was a kid.
I was going to say marine biology would be good for you.
That's what I thought about going to school for originally. Like I went through a lot of different. I used to love building things too, so I'm still really into architecture, and I thought about doing architecture. I thought about doing marine biology. I thought about there's been a lot of things in my past that I was like really interested in, but I think that's partially now why I've had all these things that I'm interested. Like I've done yoga teaching and photography and web design and like a lot of like art and physical movements things because I was a kickboxing instructor. Like I've done so many different things, and I think part of that was because I was allowed to explore a lot more as a kid. Like I just did a ton of different things, and then I've just kind of brought that into my adult life, and it's been about finding lots of things that I can experiment with and have fun with.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of my like being homeschooled, like that decision for my parents to do that when I was little kind of had that really big impact on how I live my life now with a little bit of a jack of all trades where I just do a little bit of everything. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, but I don't think I would change that for the world because it's really fun to learn a lot of different things.
It's where you are now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you homeschooled all the way through, or when did you go into any schools, or did you go into straight into university?
7th grade I did the expeditionary learning school. 10th grade it was halfway through my sophomore year, we call it here. I did public school for sports and sports teams and all of that, and then went into college and did it was a nice like progression into everything. And I lived in like a co-housing kind of community growing up, so it was
nice.
A lot of kids and families. Like when I was a kid, I think we had 45 kids in the neighborhood that were all around the same. So we like grew up playing like capture the flag and manhunt and like all these games around the whole neighborhood. And that was another cool thing is like
because of that,
you grow up with a lot of other kids
community
and
feel.
Doing things that were like outdoors rather than being an iPad kid. So
well, yeah, I mean we were before the years of iPad kids, but yes,
exactly.
To that the screens, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I
don't know. Do you have any formative like something that you think impacted a lot of like who you are as a person now growing up?
I mean, there was yeah, there was moments where I've got a bit of a mixed bag of what I like as well, because I love animals, but I love sport, but I also love video games. So none of them really mix particularly very well with each other. And I when I went into in school, we in one of the years you go for like a work experience, where you basically go out for 2 weeks and you're like an apprentice type thing, and you don't really do much work. They just kind of show you, because you're only
Yeah.
15. And then I
And
went
so
into a
like, is
vet's
that your like, what did you, is it secondary school or something? Is that what they call it for you?
secondary. Yeah, so rather than elementary and high, we have primary and secondary.
Okay.
Um,
So your
or we
secondary
would
school, I
have
think, is our high school. So it's kind of like
yeah,
ages like
mhm,
12 through 18. And so that's kind of what your
yeah, pretty
secondary
much
school is,
11,
right?
11, 12 to 18 is
Yeah.
is
Okay.
is
And then
is
high
our
school.
secondary.
Yeah.
So
I had to
that's a big
Google that
thing.
the other
That's a
day.
massive. Did you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because I
mean
was
it's
like,
a
wait,
big
what was
thing
high
for any
school?
kid going from lower or going from elementary school or primary school to secondary is a massive jump. It's huge.
Yeah.
My eldest son is due to do it this September. It's a big thing. It's like it's where you finally start to kind of find yourself a little bit
Yeah,
and
you
be
find your
like,
friends and
actually, I want to hang out. Like you're not just with one group of kids that you grew up with anymore. Like there's all these kids coming from all different areas, and you can pick and choose who you hang out with. That was a big thing for me. But when we got to work experience later on in the school, probably when I was 15, that's when I started really kind of becoming a bit more who I wanted to be. Like I started becoming a bit more geeky and playing like online games, and I started
started
to
that early,
pursue
huh?
a lot more of my interests. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, one of the things, so I wanted to be like a vet
Yeah.
or work with animals. Went to work experience in the vets and didn't like it at all.
I
It was
actually
awful.
did too.
They were
I
like,
watched them
they were
neuter
like,
a dog once and I was like,
they were like, do you want to? We're gonna do an amputation. I was like, sure. I didn't even really know fully what an amputation was. Cat's leg in the air. I was like, I'm gonna have to. They were like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No, I think I'm gonna faint." So I had to leave They brought a 15-year-old into like the operating theater. So I was like, "I'm gonna go." Sat outside, and they were like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I
you're like,
can't see
this
animals in
isn't
this
me.
way."
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not what I had in mind. So that was the end of the animal route right there. Even
Honestly,
though I love
same.
animals now,
Yep.
I'd love to work with animals in a
In an
nicer
alive
capacity.
and
I
not
don't want.
worrying about them getting
Yeah.
hurt sort of way. Yeah.
So there was that one ruled out. Sports, I just kind of generally faded away from it. My mum was also a dance teacher, so I could have gone down the dancing route. But at the time, I was like a 15-year-old, and I
You're
didn't.
like, that's not cool.
Yeah, but if I look at it now
It would have been so cool. Yeah.
and know how popular it is, especially like because
You could have been
I
a
was like
famous
trying to impress the
TikTok
girls.
dancer.
If you wanted to impress the girls and you're a dancer, I was like, wait, no one told me that. So I went and sat and played online on like Warcraft and like Command and Conquer and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because that was much more
So
cool,
yeah,
obviously.
so I think when I hit 15, that's when I started to it started to shape who I was as a person and what I wanted to do
So
and
was there so it
the type
sounds
of
like
people
there's
that I wanted to hang out
specific
with.
moments like doing the vet thing. That was like a moment that you were like, this is
That thing
not what I want to do. Did you have any other
was a big
like
thing.
because like the one thing like what that thing was that changed things? Do you have
We also around a similar time, probably after that, we had like a career advisor come in to school, and they kind of broke down all these ideas, not necessarily stigmas, but these ideas that like your parents had said, you need to do this, you need to be successful, you need to go into this, blah blah blah,
yeah
or you'd seen other people do it and following those footsteps. And this person said there are so many options for you out there and so many opportunities for you to outside of the norm. More so than there ever has been. Bearing in mind, this was like 20 years ago. So if you roll forward 20 years again now, it'll be even more kind
yeah
of, there's so many options out there. But they came in and that talk kind of resonated with me. And I kind of came out of it and I was like, I don't want to do this course that I've been doing at school. I want to walk away from that. And my mum was like, you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes. She was like, okay, we'll stick by you on this. And that's when that ended up me then, going in university, wanting to go and do video game development and that sort of thing. But
yeah
all of a sudden I realized there was more than just you have to go and work in an office or you have to go and be a teacher or because I was worried that there wasn't many options for me. And then
yeah
it's funny how one person or like I had a teacher as well, like a history teacher that was 10 times better than all the other history teachers because they really made you want to learn. Because they were like this, they were so passionate, and because they were passionate, that kind of went on to you.
yeah. Well,
So
I
I
was
think
gonna
when you're
say I
growing
think
up, I
that's
think
another thing. Is it's one
if you
thing, but it
have,
also is
yeah,
people.
people
Yeah.
can. I know this sounds like such a cliche thing, but like a passionate person, an adult, can really shape a younger person's mind, and they won't even, they're not forcing it on them. They're just so passionate about what they're teaching that
Yeah.
that kid's like, I want to learn that. I want to be that person, you know. So I
Yeah.
think there was one teacher. It was a teacher called Mr. Jackson. He was the best teacher I ever had. There was him, and there was, I can't remember the name of the career advisor, but when I was 15, that like echoed with me, and that kind of changed what I was going
Yeah.
to do, because I think I was going to go into something, I don't know, English, like an English teaching route, and I didn't really want to do. I couldn't stand teaching.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything worse than trying to teach children. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment for me. 15.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
interesting too
after
that
that, I
it's
was, yeah,
yeah, that it's one, you can have like the one thing that changed everything, but it can also be this one person or like the influence or this thing that somebody said
yeah.
that can change it
I think
too.
I think with boys as well, because boys can have a tendency to mature a little bit later, that a lot of us just kind of doss around for as long as we can. And then it gets to 15 and you actually start paying attention. You're like, oh, yeah, shit, I should really think of
And then you get
what
to
I want to do with my life, shouldn't
25
I?
and you're still like, yeah, and then 30
And then
and
you get
then
to 30, and then you get to 39 and you're like, "Man,
you're like, I still don't know.
many crises through life. There's not just a midlife crisis, there's many
Every other
certain
year it's fine.
stages.
Yeah,
So
no, well,
so after the homeschooling,
the
so
next, well, that's why I'm trying to like move chronologically to like, okay, what was like the next
yeah,
biggest pivotal moment kind of thing? I think for me, like college was big, obviously, right? Like there's people that you meet and things you do, but I think like the next like biggest thing for me was probably traveling, and in the way that, well, so there's actually like a couple different things that have to do with traveling. Like the first one was like I did study abroad. There was a program that did art history classes and a drawing class in Italy for 3 months it was like a summer study abroad program, and that's kind of what gave me the travel bug a little bit. But I think like actually like a bigger pivotal moment for me was after college, I went to work getting into the thing that like the career that you go to school for. So like I went to school to be a photographer, and I was working at a photography studio for another photographer, and like it was mostly like doing stuff for his work, not my own work, but yeah, that's how it starts sometimes, like working for the gallery and stuff like that. And
of course,
I just was
yeah.
I was hating it though. Like I was just like, this is. I just remember sitting in front of work one day, just like crying in my car because it was dark out, and then I knew by the time I came out of work it was going to be dark still, and I was like, I am going to
That's
spend
a really tough thing.
my entire time just like in the back of this studio doing work for someone else, and I wasn't passionate about and the guy was not my favorite, and it was just like
Yeah.
I want to be doing anything but this. And so I remember I called my dad and I talked to him and we were talking about it, and he was like, oh, we should do a trip. And we actually started to try to plan a trip to go to Africa. And then he ended up having a bunch of life stuff that happened. So he was kind of like, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. And so I was like sitting there being like, okay, well, this was going to be kind of my thing to like take a break. And I was like, okay, well, what if I just did it myself? So I ended up quitting my job and going to Thailand, and just, it was the first time that because like the first time I traveled, it was like with school, so it's very organized. So that was the first time that I planned everything by myself, and I solo traveled and like stayed in all these hostels, and it was like me learning everything that I know about traveling from that like kind of first trip. And that just like blew my little mind, like so much like culture shock and like learning. I went and actually worked at like an elephant sanctuary thing for a little bit, which really didn't mean a lot.
Yeah,
like
I
I like
same.
cut food for the elephants and things like that, but it was like getting to interact with animals, which is something that I'm just very passionate about in general. And then going to hostels and meeting people from all over the world, and that was just such a pivotal point for me. And so then basically my entire existence from that was like, early 20s through my 20s was all just me coming back to the States, getting some random job to save up as much money as I could and then leaving to travel again. And so then I did like a trip in Europe and then came back and I did waitressing things and then went and did another trip that came back, did kickboxing for like a year or so, saved up a little bit more, then did my year in Asia and then came back. So it was kind of like that for me. Cool, I remember hearing a quote once that was like something about, what is it exactly? I think it's traveling is the only thing that you spend money on that makes you richer. So it's this idea that like you gain so many experiences and you meet so many people and cultures. So like to me, like I've not really saved up a whole lot of money through my life, but I've got so many cool experiences that to me it was 100% worth it. Yeah, so that for me that was like a huge, I think just that trip. So like my dad canceling the trip and having me do that by myself ended up like making me grow as a person so much more than I think anything that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Which it's I think it's kind of like it's an interesting lesson and one that I've even been reminded of on this trip when plans have fallen through, because there's this idea that I know I tend to be anxious about things sometimes and worrying about if things don't work out, but when they don't work out, sometimes it's like a happy happenstance where you find something better or different, or you learn that you were really capable at problem solving, and so I've just learned a lot through that.
It can be easy to be really stressed and really concerned when you're away from home and things aren't going as expected and plans fall through.
Yeah.
It can be because you're not in your safe. Like if something goes wrong at home, you're like, oh well, shit, we'll figure it out. Whereas
I'll just go to my room.
Oh, what do I do now? What do I do? Yeah.
Yeah, when you're stuck in the middle of the country, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, but it helps you grow and learn in a lot of ways. So that was like the biggest thing for like just who I think I am as a person overall now too.
Yeah.
Man. Do you have a next pivotal thing of where you are now? I feel like for you, because so for me it was like the travel route. I think for you maybe is more the family route potentially. Like
no, it was more the work. Like I was coming out the back of school, I was still very confused as to what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. I was confused, and I wasn't a very confident person at all, and I don't think that helped. So I'd done a couple of things, like I'd gone to university for a year, and it didn't really work out because I didn't want to study anymore. Like I wanted to have a bit more kind of life experience in the fact that I wanted to go out, work, earn money. With that. It's
wanted to hands-on experiences are so much better.
Yeah, I wanted to have my own money, and I wanted to do things by myself. I wanted to be out of my parents' house. Mm-hmm. Not because it was a bad house to be in, just because I wanted my independence from an early age. And I realize now there's a lot of people that do the smart thing and save up money and actually stay at home for longer and stay at home a lot longer because it's the right thing to do because it's so expensive out there. Whereas I threw myself out there as soon as I could when I was like 19, you know.
Yeah.
So I came back from university, fell back into video games, didn't leave home for a little while because I was busy playing an online video game which still exists to this day. Yeah. And my mum was like, right, we're going to take your resume, or as we call it in UK, CV. I'm going to just print a load of them out. We're going into town. We're going to start handing them out. So I was like, yeah, but at this point, I'd never been in like a customer-facing role. Mm-hmm. So I was shitting it. I was like, I don't want to do this. And she was like, no, you'll be fine. And I was so nervous and so anxious. I was really upset. And then we handed out CVs, and then like a couple of places called back, and they were like, we'd like to interview you for like a Christmas temporary position. I was like, I can't do this. And like my mum had to like, drag me out of the house.
Interviews were the scariest thing of my entire existence growing up.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
It's the worst.
And do you know what? I think they do it in schools now, but I wish my school back then had helped us learn how to prep for interviews and actually do like mock interviews with us to get us used to it.
That would have been fantastic.
I think they do now, but didn't back in my day. And so I went in, and then fortunately, and I think that, again, this is where, going back to what I said earlier on, not even when you're a kid or a young adult, but at any stage of your life, the right person can have a really good impact on you.
Yeah.
So the guy interviewing me was a lovely, lovely guy. He became my manager for like 6 years. Lovely guy, and he became like a father figure to me when I was working there. But he was so fun, and he understood that like this is my first job, and he
Yeah.
kind of brought me in, got me to do a few little shifts here and there, got me on that, and then after that, that's when my career kind of kicked off. So that interview with him and that first initial week with him was helped shape who I am today,
Yeah.
because
Gave you more
I didn't
confidence
want to
with that
talk to
too.
anyone. When I was at school, I worked in the weekends at a shop, but I was the only person who wanted to work in the warehouse and not work on the shop floor.
Oh.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to
Yeah,
talk
I
to
don't want
anyone.
to
They
talk
were
to
like, "You sure you
anybody.
don't want to come out?" I was like, "No, I'm going to hide behind these crates and just
Which is
stack
so
these
funny because that
these."
doesn't, like, knowing you and your personality now,
Exactly.
I'm like, wait, what?
Exactly. It was
Really?
like it was like there was a shell over me, and someone needed to
Mhm.
crack it, and then inside is where I was.
The nice
And
squishy
then
shaky?
after that, the squishy shaky, yes. And then since then, I've not been able to be in any kind of role or career or position where it's not a social role. So I've gone from
So
retail
you've
to
learned to, like, that is what
hospitality
you like and enjoy?
to recruitment
Hmm.
to them, like, because I've done, and obviously at TwitchCon I'll be on one
Yeah.
of the panels presenting. Like, if you said to 17-year-old me you're going to be sitting in front of like maybe 100 people, I'll be like, I'm just going to die. But now I'm like, let's do it, let's go. I'm nervous, but I'm kind of excited at the same
Yeah.
time.
I'm just good.
So that was
No, I
big.
totally get
So that was
that.
big. So I went in, yeah. So I started in retail. Went from Christmas temp to perm within a couple of months. Then I became team leader. Then I became a deputy manager. And then I went into management. And then I had a team of 30 that I used to manage. So it's so crazy how one person can shift your kind of that confidence and that
It's it's
potential
funny
you
because
have.
it seems like you have been a lot of like a person things, and for me it's been a lot more of events. So like
Yeah.
like things that I've done, like there's been little events that do it, and it seems like for you that's been a lot really impactful for people, which is just it's just interesting how different people are impacted or take news or things in different ways too. Because it's funny what it made
Yeah.
me think of. So you're talking about like being in front of people. It made me think of like I did a yoga teaching training that was purely just for me to learn yoga. I was like, there is no way in hell I ever want to stand up in front of people or do this. And then I
Yeah. Yeah.
actually when I got back from traveling, I went to a yoga studio and I was like looking into applying to be a cleaner so I could get free yoga classes. Had no intention of teaching. Turns out that when I reached out to them, they were actually hiring yoga teachers, not cleaners. And I was like, oh, well, that's not actually. But I was like, well, but technically I have this certification. Like, I can't do it. So I went in and I had to audition for it with just the 2 or 3 teachers, the managers that worked there. And then I got a position and went from being terrified of being in front of people to having to teach classes of like 20 plus. And then when I was kickboxing, there was like 50 plus people in some of these classes. And for me, it's easier when I'm doing something that's in the moment. Like if I still was to like stand up and do public speaking, I think I would be a lot more anxious. But if I'm doing something that I'm knowledgeable about, that I'm like, okay, then it's a little bit easier.
But I always say with anything, give it 5 minutes. Once you pass the first 5 minutes of doing
That's true.
something,
That's true.
everything else in one of my favorite um, sayings I've heard, or quotes that people have said in the past, is that life begins outside of your comfort zone. So the moment you step outside of
Yeah.
that bubble and you break the bubble and you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my God, and you're like, I did it, and then you're like, and then there's that feeling of like pride and relief all at the same time that you've done something and you've stepped up to it. And that can be
I
hard
think,
because it can be completely crushing getting to that point
oh yeah.
that almost people like you retract into yourself and be like, I can't do it. No, sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I think
Don't
that's
do
a
it.
good point. It's like that's the growth zone, if you think about it, where
Yeah.
like, and it
Yeah.
can be a very big barrier. I actually talked about this on my stream yesterday because people were saying like, like what has helped you get outside of that comfort zone and stuff. And like for me, it was always anything that I've been afraid of. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. Like, like shaving my head or going to travel or going skydiving, like little random things at any time I was like, oh, I kind of want to do this. I like gained trust in myself by rather than being like, oh, I want to do this, but being like, oh, no, I can't do it. It was like, okay, shit, I guess we have to do it anyway. And like, it is terrifying and painful and sometimes the worst experience getting up into that point. But then, like what you said, if you can break through that barrier, like you were saying, breaking through the shaky shell, like once you get through that and you can fight against that, that is where I think people really change and grow and learn. And
you do, and even sometimes, I mean, we'll move on to streaming soon, but like even when it comes to streaming, sometimes if I've like said I'm going to do something and then I'm about to go live and I'm standing there dressed up as like Lara Croft, I'm like fuck. Okay, here we go, guys, welcome in. How we doing? Here we go. Stage curtain. Here we go. I'm here. But I think that will, in even if you look at when you
Sorry,
talk
this
at
is
like
so
when you
funny
talk
to
to
me.
like actors or anything, like even actors, big actors, if they're going on stage, they still get a little bit of that. Fuck. Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. There's
Let's do
always,
it.
I think that's what makes you human. Is there's you fall into your comfort area, and then you do something where you're like, okay, I'm going to be in front of someone here, or I'm doing something that's not my usual thing. It's completely
Yeah.
normal to have a little bit of you that's like, you sure you want to do this?
I
Just
mean,
because it
that's a
feels comfier and safer. Yeah.
well, and that's a brain thing. Like your brain
Mm-hmm.
has been wired to keep you safe, and so in the same way that, like as caveman days, it's like we're wired to, like if there's scary animals or something, like our fight or flight kicks in, and we do that,
Be
right?
safe.
And now in this day and age, there's not as many scary things that are gonna like actually attack you, but you still have that same like physiological response to
Yeah.
day-to-day things. And so it makes sense that your brain will try to convince you to not do things that are like scary or outside of your comfort zone. But if it's not actually going to harm you, 9 times out of 10, pushing through and doing that thing is actually going to be what makes is the one thing that changes everything.
Yeah, it's the mental battle that you fight with yourself, and almost I like to try and push against my own self to be like, I'm going to do it, whether you like it or not. Well, I don't want you to do it. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. So shut up. And then yeah, it's that whole thing of just breaking through into this new person. And when someone says, you set like a goal or a challenge, you like, then people are like, I can't believe you're going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I am going to do it actually. Fuck it, because I think it'll be funny to see.
Sometimes you're
if
like,
it
I can't
works.
believe
If
I'm going to
doesn't,
do
if
it
I make a
either,
fool of myself.
but
Yeah,
but we're going to do it anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's. But I don't know. Yeah, that's where I don't know.
No, I love
I think
that.
that's what shaped me today. But like, funnily enough, there's when my mum mentioned something to me a while back. She was like, when I first saw you streaming, she said I saw my brother in you, her brother, my uncle who
Yeah.
passed away
Oh.
the year before last. Because a lot of what I realized is there was a lot of these different kind of not streaming, but like almost this kind of performing arts type things in my family. So my grandpa was a radio host in Calgary. My uncle was an actor and a director, and my mum was a dancer. So there's lots of different
Yeah.
parts of the family that have
Feels
had
like you
these
were meant
things.
to do this.
Whereas my dad's side is a very much very, very skilled and educated and have really good jobs and successful jobs, but not as like performing as my mum's side. My mum's side is more the performing side. My dad's side is more of the studious side. I think that's so I've got a mix of this. I think that's what makes up the
The
character.
little
And the studious
pressures of
side
who.
sometimes, the studious side is sometimes like focus, head down, don't talk, get on with your job. And the performing side is like, but why don't you do this? Go for it. And I'm like, I shouldn't
Well,
I?
and what's so
But I'm
cool is I
nervous.
think everybody kind of has those duologies within you. I don't know if that's the right word,
Yeah,
but the
I think that is the word. Yeah,
and you just get to the
I think
cool
it
thing
is.
is you get to choose, like whether you are impacted by this event or by something that someone tells you, you get to choose to listen to that or to follow through with it, or you can choose to go the opposite route. And ultimately, and I think the other really cool part is that never ends. I think a lot of people, once they get to even like our age range, being like, oh, I'm in my 30s, like that's just, or older, where it's like, well, I can't go back to school, like I'm too old to do this, or I can't do this anymore, I can't do a new sport, or I can't. It's like, sure, there are a few things that being younger is a little bit easier, but also, if you only live once, why not experience whatever it is that you want to experience? So it's never too late to just be like, screw it, I'm
never
going to
too
learn how
late. Yeah,
to do XYZ.
yeah, yeah. I think it is. Yeah, you've got to fight. You've got to fight your own, not necessarily inner demons, just those
Of-
things that were there's a lot of us are kind of brought up in a very kind of supportive, soft, cushioned way, and often we need to kind of challenge ourselves, and there's only us that can do it. It's
Yeah.
only us that can say, you got to do this, you have to do this, and if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. I think also don't be afraid to fail, and that's a big thing.
I see. I don't even
And
believe
it's
in
hard
failure. Like, to me, failure
because
is a learning lesson.
no one wants to fail. Yeah, it
It's
is.
only
But no
a
one wants to
failure if you
fail.
don't try again and you just go, oh, I
Yep.
failed, and that's it. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just a
So
learning. It's a stepping stone, in my
I think
opinion.
that's so. So where does that bring us? Because you're. So we spoke about like you did a lot of traveling. I went through different careers that kind of helped build my personality or character now. And then we come around to, I guess, the more recent years
Well, it was kind of
and
interesting
how we
because
ended up streaming.
you
Yeah.
were talking about, or we're even talking about being older and finding hobbies. Like, streaming is kind of one of those things too that I think is primarily a younger. It's getting less so, but there does feel like it's a younger crowd sometimes. Or like I do get the you're too old to play video games kind of thing sometimes. And so being in this kind of demographic and figuring out, like, of course there are tons of people that still do, but you also get both sides of the coin where there's people that are a little bit judgmental about doing this
See,
as
I'm
a
waiting.
career.
I'm I'm waiting for that to happen. I think as much as you might not agree, but some people say like I still personally don't feel or feel that I look like I'm going to be 40 next year. And
Wait, are you telling me
I
I look
don't
old?
think I. No, I'm saying that you will be like,
No.
well, I can tell. You look at that, look at those wrinkles. But like, because that's who you are. But there's I quite like seeing the diversity on Twitch, and I think it's going to continue to go more that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
I'm
I
hoping it
think
will
our
be because
generation is
there's
shepherding in a little
when
bit
I'm
more older gamers.
yeah, but even the older gamers, like when I scroll through Twitch sometimes, I scrolled across a chap in the US that was in his late 60s, and I think he was like a veteran or something. And all he was doing was he was chatting with everyone, and people were saying he loves singing. So people were saying, "Would you sing this song?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll sing it." So this old chap in his late 60s singing his heart out on these songs, and he had like 300 viewers, and I was like, "Good for you, mate." I was like, "I'm really pleased that you're at your age, you're bringing in this whole community of people from all over the world, and you're having fun." And the more I see that, the more I know Twitch is for everyone, and it should always be for everyone. But yes, it can feel like there's a kind of 18 to 25 clique of people who
Well,
go,
it does feel like you kind of have to break out
it's
of that. Like, that was kind of like what was
mhm.
marketed to me when I first popped on Twitch too, and I was like, I feel way too old for this. And then I've kind of, since then, whether it's through the algorithm and people I've known, I've started to find more people that are more in my age range and my niche too. And so it's like, it's kind of like creating that community of people. And I do think that there's, like you said, the internet, like there is a
You
place for
find
everyone out there.
there is. You find your niche, you find your corner, and also, providing you're old enough to be on Twitch, I don't think people. I know why people would be, but I don't think people should be afraid to if their age comes up and they say like, "Oh, I'm 52," own it. Just
Yeah.
own it. Doesn't matter what age you are. If you're
Mhm.
in the right community, you should be able to share that,
Yeah.
and that's what I encourage. What we would both encourage in our communities.
Hmm.
It's so lovely, yeah, and it's a lot of the people who have been hanging out in my community over the last few years are obviously all getting older at the same time I'm getting older. So I'm getting all these kind of 30s and 40-year-old people that I hang out with. And do you know what? We've shared memories for the last 5 years, and we're all
Hmm.
kind of aging together, which is quite nice. There's this nice thing
I
about
mean,
it is
really,
like,
everyone in the world is, but yeah, no, that makes sense.
no, I know what you mean. I know,
No, I'm just giving you
but like
shit.
some people will come and go from Twitch as they do,
Totally.
but other ones that stick around, they'll
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah,
"I'm
remember
gonna be
that one
35," and
time that we,
I
yeah.
was like, when we met though, you were like 28, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm 35 now." I'm like, "That's so cool." Even though it's
You're like,
weird because
that's,
time's just a weird thing.
yeah. I know
It
people
doesn't
have
make sense, but it does to me. Yeah.
No, I totally get what you mean. Yeah, well, and so I guess it's funny. Like, so you were talking about streaming, and I'm trying to think of like the one
What
thing
was
that
it? Okay,
changed
so what was
everything when it came to
yeah? So what
streaming.
changed it for you? Because did you know that you wanted
Stream?
to do it? Like, was there anything that really changed it? That it was like, okay, I actually really like this, and I want to do this. Was there like a defining moment, or did it just kind of as soon as you went live that first time, you got the buzz for it?
No, it's funny because like I'm trying to think. I definitely have like one specific changing moment later on of streaming, but I think for me it was a person that got me into streaming. So like one of my exes is like told me about streaming. I had no idea what it was, and he was like, "Well, if you're playing League and doing all this anyway, you might as well try streaming." And so I just tried it. And then I left and I was traveling more, but I was trying to stream while I traveled. But mostly I was doing like behind the scenes, like research. Like I was, watching other streamers, and I was like seeing what people build with their community and like looking into like what makes a really good streamer. So I actually spent the first probably couple months of my like streaming career not really streaming. It was more like deep diving into what the streaming world was. And like because I had been trying to get a business up and running that I could do remotely for the longest time anyway. Like I had tried to do photography and website design and graphic design, and I did online personal training and yoga teaching and all of this stuff because I wanted to be able to keep traveling but have some sort of income at the same time. And so streaming was something that I just kind of started and then was researching it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. And I don't feel like, I'm trying to remember back, there really wasn't a moment for me that was like, oh, this is what it was just kind of like, because I was already trying to get a business that was going to work in that way. It was just something that I started doing and put all of my time and effort into, and it slowly started to build. Like I remember even like my little milestones of like where I was at certain points. Like it's because I travel a lot. Like I got my first raid when I was hanging out on a beach in Belize, but I had like, my average viewers were like 5 average viewers, and I had somebody raid in with like 20 people. His name was Fresco. Awesome human being. But like brought his community, and I was like, oh my God, there's people in here. Like, and this was like, at the time where you're still trying to get like 100, 200 followers and all of that. And I just remember that being like a kind of crazy moment. And then there's just been a lot of like milestones since then. And it was just, I guess for me, it was fun. It felt like it combined, like I could do it while I was traveling. I taught a lot of yoga teaching or yoga classes when I started streaming too. So for me, it combined a lot of these interests. I talk a lot about mindset. I taught these fitness classes. I was able to play video games. So it was like, it morphed all of these things that I was really interested in into one thing. Yeah. And I tend to be one of those people that get bored doing one thing. Like I've only ever stayed in one job for like a year, maybe 2, because I'm like, I just need more things. Maybe the ADHD brain, but I'm just like, I need more mental stimulation. So the cool thing about streaming was that it was like, oh, you are you're your marketer, you are your lighting expert and your tech person, and you do everything to be a good streamer as well. So then for me, it was so many things to learn that it kept my interest long enough that I kind of just kept going. And that was just one of those things that I just decided that that's what I was doing, and that's what I was doing full time. And so pretty much even from when I started streaming, I was like, I am just a full-time streamer. This is what I do. And I think for me, like if I think about defining moments, a big one for me was the Neil Newbon raid. That was something that just was such a big, and for context for anybody who doesn't know, I was playing Baldur's Gate at the time, and one of the voice actors, Neil Newbon, who voices Astarion in Baldur's Gate, brought his community in and raided. And I thought it was a bot raid. I actually didn't know because I'm really bad with names. I didn't know who he was even. So it said he raided in with 1,500 people or something.
I know who this is, yeah.
And they were playing the shit. I had a shit Astarion voice or like a blurp sound that everybody was spamming that. Like I should have gotten that as a hint. But they were playing that. All these people were following.
But in the heat of the moment, it's just.
And I was just like, oh my God, there's so many people in my chat. Like, sorry, I can't keep up with chat. Like, hello, hi, what's going on? And then Nande came running in the room to be like, that's Astarion. And I was like, oh, ha. Like, it was just one of those moments that I was just like, oh my God. But what was so cool about that was because Baldur's Gate was such a big game that I was playing, and he brought such like a close following, and because I was oblivious and people followed me because they thought it was funny. My channel it went from being like, I was getting closer to partner, but that is what like pushed me over the edge to be able to keep the numbers up for the next couple months. And so like having that raid and then getting those community members that like many of them stuck around till now and are a very big core part of my community. Like that is kind of my big moment that helped me get partner, which like I think that's kind of like the main goal that you kind of go for on Twitch, especially is trying to make that like a full-time thing. And so for me now, it's less about the number. Like the numbers are good for trying to get brand partnerships and things like that. But I
Yeah.
think for me now, it's trying to find like different goals and stuff. But that was like my one moment that I feel like was like, okay, cool. Now we're here. And then of course, getting partner was amazing and a huge experience in itself. But
It's crazy. It's crazy how one thing on streaming can help.
And
It
the
can
thing
almost
is,
change
you
the
never
trajectory of
know.
things.
Because like
No.
I literally that day, I was playing an honor run of Baldur's Gate, and I was just clicking through dialogue, and I was being an idiot, and I sassed Blackith, which basically I ended up wiping my entire team, and I had just finished sobbing on, like I was so upset that this happened, and so it went from being like not the worst day, but it was a terrible day in gaming for me, where I was like, I can't believe that I did this stupid thing, and I did it on stream, and I'm trying not to be upset about it, but I'm upset, and it's this whole thing, to like, oh my god, this is happening. And it was just really one of those moments too, where you just never know. Like you might be having a terrible day and you show up on stream and it ends up being the best stream of your life. And it was a very big like mental moment for me too, that like it is so important to just show up. Like however you're feeling, to like just put yourself out there, because you never know what's gonna happen. Like you truly, like life can surprise you in so many different ways. And so that was that was a big one for me too.
It's crazy how it can happen, but it's awesome. It's brilliant, and that's why, like you say, just showing up, just being there, going live. You'll often find that stream will pick you up, even if you're not feeling like you're 100%, but you still wanna hang out with people, and then the community change things, or a streamer changes it for you, or that it's just whatever's happening on Twitch can change it.
Yeah,
It really,
it's crazy.
It's exciting. I think that's why I love streaming. There's the unknown. The unknown is amazing. Who you meet,
like how are you going to show
happen?
up? Who are you going to meet? What's going to happen? Like you just.
And I think that's what appeals to me over certain of, not only because it's a passion for video games and hanging out with people, but also because in a lot of jobs you're like, here's the 9 to 5, here's the grind, this is what I'm going to do, these are my jobs.
That's actually a good point.
Whereas on streaming, whatever you make of it could be anything. You could
Totally.
bump into anyone. You could go anywhere with it. So
Yeah. No, I
you make of
definitely
it what
agree.
it is.
Well, so then do you have your one big moment with streaming, or like either what got you in there and then kept you streaming, or like have you had a moment that like made it click?
Couple of things happened. I'll try and get a few quick ones out. So I was streaming and I'd got an affiliate, and I was still streaming from my PS4, so I didn't have a PC at the time, not a lot going on. I had one night where I think I was streaming Spider-Man on the PS4, and then I got a raid, like you say. It was like a raid of only like 15 or 20 people, but all of a sudden I was like, all right, guys, welcome in. And like it kind of woke me up, and then someone who, they are a really good friend of mine now, but someone started throwing like a lot of bits down on the channel, and I was like, wait, this is actual money. And then another one of their friends was like, well, I'm gonna have a bit war with you, and I'm gonna throw some bits there so I can go above them on the leaderboard. And I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm gonna keep playing this game and talking to you. And then I saw the result of that stream, and I was like, that's the best stream I've ever had, and this has made me really excited about.
Yeah, like your
actually
first Twitch payout
like
is so exciting.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like, and this is one thing which you should never do, and I'll talk about it on the panel this weekend at TwitchCon. Don't ever go into streaming with the mindset of, I want to make money, I want to become a streamer. Go into it with the passion. And I'd always had the passion for it. But now that there was like, oh, I'm getting a little payout off of this. That was a
You paid for your passion, as always. I mean, if you can do what you love.
That was exactly it. And then when I got the PC, that opened my eyes. When you stream from a PC, it's like a dream. Like compared to stream from, like, you can be like, I can do noises and alerts, and I can do scene transitions, and all this magical thing happens, and I've got a couple of screens, and I feel like a really techie little kind of creator.
Yeah, your first really PC, that's also those little moments.
That was a big thing. And then one of the big moments more recently, which really has, like you, kind of helped. I don't know. It's just helped.
It was probably meeting me, right?
Obviously, I am the streamer I am today because of kids. I mean, that was. I don't want to say.
That was the most pivotal moment, honestly. So
that was the most pivotal moment. No, it was. It's funny because I think we'd been introduced by a person, and then it's so funny how you then find your people on Twitch. And
I think I ended up being like, you're gonna be my best friend on Twitch. Sorry, and you were like, okay, I guess so.
Yeah, right, sure.
Okay, no, but for your real moment, sorry to interrupt you.
That goes back to like Playground, when someone walks up and they're gonna be like, "You're my friend now," and they're like, "Okay, what should we do? Should we go over there? Okay, cool."
It kind of was though. Like I don't really
Yeah.
remember how it talked, but we were talking about how like other people on Twitch has like Twitch besties, and I was like, I don't really have a Twitch bestie. Do you want to be my Twitch bestie? Like let's.
And that's how it happened. It's simple. So it doesn't matter if you're in your 30s or if you're 5 years old. It just happens.
Yep.
But no, one of the moments was last year, and it was actually annoyingly because of it was in part thanks to you as well. But I'm not going to let
Annoyingly.
you hold that over my head. Yeah, yeah. So it was this whole charity event.
Oh yeah,
Which Emma Nia had
yeah.
set up, and then I was talking to her in your channel, and then she messaged me saying, "Look, if you want to be part of this, like, let me know because I'd love to
Mhm.
get more people involved." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not a big streamer." She's like, "Doesn't matter." She's like, "I want you to be part of it." So then did it, and then I was on I was on the graphics next to everyone on the list. And I was like, "That's really cool." And then, 3 charity streams later over 3 different events, and all of a sudden the whole shift in the streams and everything has just really it's been a real kind of upwards growth. And it's so funny because I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to do a charity stream because that's going to make me a partner or anything like that. It was more just it'd been a while since we've done
I mean,
anything
it's
charitable.
a
I
good
really
thing to
enjoy the
do, and yeah.
it's a fun thing to do, and it's a good thing to do, and you feel great for doing it. I love doing charity work through streams. And then all of a sudden it's weird. It kind of broke down this almost fear, this invisible wall of hanging around more kind of bigger streamers.
I'm honestly same though. Like I was
That's
kind of in the
always
same
there. When you're a
boat.
smaller streamer, you're like, I can't talk to them. They've got 30 viewers, and I've only
Yeah.
got 5 viewers. And then you realize, wait a minute, they're just someone else who's doing the
Yeah.
exact same
Well,
thing
and
we have.
some
And
of it is meeting the right people too. Like I think it depends on
yeah,
the vibes. Like there are some people where it's like, they have their bubble in their community and it just depends on who you meet, but I think getting into a community of people and honestly that circumstance was kind of the same way for me because I think I had just gotten partners, so I had met a few of those people, but I was still terrified to talk to other partner streamers. Like I was like,
yeah.
they've been here longer, they're better at this or whatever. But yeah, once you realize that everyone is just we're all just humans kind of doing the
Just
same
ordinary.
thing,
I mean, I
then
still
you're like,
get it when
oh.
certain people go like, I'm like, hello, welcome to the stream.
I know I
This
had
is my
like if big
push to
streamers
stream.
rate in, you're like, how do I forgot what my name is. I don't know.
Yeah, you just waffle and mumble. But no, it was a big moment for me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it made me feel welcomed among kind of bigger streamers, and
Hmm.
no one's ever made me feel like they're not able to be spoken to. I think
Yeah.
it was something I'd built in my own mind.
Yeah, we've talked about how both of us have the
Because
evil
we've
brains.
talked about in the past
Yeah.
how it is like you find the people who are at similar stages to you and you kind
Hmm.
of hang out with them. But if a big one comes in, you're like, oh, okay, we need to. There's someone special. Yeah, so that was great. And
Yeah.
then finally, before we end, one more recently, being invited to talk in front on at TwitchCon in front of potentially a lot of people. I look back at myself sitting on the sofa playing my PS4 to now being what's called I've got a Twitch my TwitchCon badge says content panelist or content
Yeah, yeah.
participant. I'm like how like the whole how we've got round to this stage kind of blows my mind that little old me sitting on my sofa playing Apex Legends and now I'm being invited to
To
sit
be
and
part
talk
of the
about my
Twitch
experiences
thing.
on Twitch is so crazy to think about and really exciting. So
Yeah.
you can record moments as you go through your streaming career and they stick with you. And you could ask any streamer, and I'm sure they'd say, yeah, actually, there was a couple of defining moments, a
Hmm.
game, a raid, something that happened, or
I mean, there's so many of them too. I mean, I feel like that's just a couple for us too that like have
yeah,
defined and shaped where we are. But it's like even as we're talking, there's more that pop up in my brain. Where I'm like, oh yeah, that one thing, or like, oh yeah, this
yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and like I think that's what's really cool about just showing up in day to day and everything is like you just really never know who you're gonna meet, what interaction you're gonna have, what event's gonna happen. Like
No,
just show
but that
up
also
and be open to.
yeah, but that relates to real life as well. If
Well,
you put
that's what I
yourself out
mean.
there and do
Just to all
things,
of those things. Like,
you never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen.
mhm.
Could be a normal day, it could be boring, or you never know who you'll bump into or what'll happen. So just put yourself out there, I think, is a big message.
Yep.
Break out of that comfort zone. Be a little bit scared because that's normal.
Crack the
That's
egg.
part of our our build saying, okay, I'm going to be defensive here because I don't want you to be upset. And then you're like, no, actually, I want to do it. I
Yeah.
want to give it a go. Give it a try. Yeah,
Do
it's exciting, isn't it?
do it. Just like Nike says, just do it.
But it is nice to reflect on those breakthrough moments
Yeah.
and celebrate them as well. So if you're a streamer, celebrate with your community. And also, often communities and people like hearing about kind of where you've been as a
The
person, as a
origin
streamer.
stories.
The origin stories. Everyone loves
Yeah.
a bit of lore. We love a little
Yeah.
bit of history, don't we? Yeah.
Indeed.
We do.
That was honestly, and we are almost perfectly on time too. We got like
Wicked.
5 minutes, so we can do our wrap up things.
Wicked. What am I, 12? Ew.
Wicked.
Sick, man, yeah.
Sweet bra.
Cringe. I hate myself sometimes.
Games of the week. Any new recommendations? I mean, mine is still Clair Obscur. I'm currently in Sweden staying with one of my mods, and so I got a chance to stream some video games this week, and within 2 streams, I streamed 13 hours one day and 6 hours another day, so I am just playing that Clair
Almost 20
Obscur.
hours over 2 days. Yeah, it's crazy.
I love
isn't
that
it?
game.
So you're still loving that though. That's
yeah.
good. That's really good.
So much.
That's good.
Do you have a
Mine
new
is
favorite?
well, yeah. What I'm going to play I'm going to play on my next stream actually is Doom 2016.
Oh, nice. Wait, that's the older, not so, because the new one just came out, right? But that's
It's the older one of the new generation of Doom games.
Gotcha.
So there was all the old retro Dooms, and then they had a revival like 13 years later, and there was Doom
gotcha.
2016,
And even
Doom Eternal, and more recently Doom Dark Ages, which came out this month. And we did it as part of the Megathon. They spanned the wheel. It landed on first-person shooter. The guys put their choices up.
Why.
It was between that, and there was other ones that were voted were like Titanfall, Call of Duty, Borderlands, those sort of things.
Gotcha.
Doom 2016 came out on top. Played it. I can honestly see why everyone loves it. It's so beautiful. Yeah, like it's gory. The music is like a heavy metal soundtrack.
Yeah.
You feel like a badass. You feel like a badass. When you feel like a badass in a video game, then it's a great time. Yeah,
I love it.
So it's good to try games that you've missed.
I would say
in
on
the
theme with what we're talking about getting outside of your comfort zone. Try games that you
try
don't.
ones you've missed.
Things that you don't
have
even
to be
think that
playing
you
the
would
latest
like
game.
too. Like there are so many
Funny
games
enough.
that I'm like, this is not my type of game. Ended up being like my
had a
favorite
viewer-
games. Like it happens.
Exactly. I had a viewer come in the other day and they said, "Do you know what? Every other person is playing one game at the moment, but you're playing this. This is cool. I want to see something that's not the most recent game." And as great as the recent games are, sometimes people want to change from that and they want to be
Totally.
like, "I want to watch something a bit different," Because or they might be playing the game themselves. I'm like trying to avoid spoilers, which is what I'm having to do with every
Clair
streamer
Obscur,
on Clair Obscur at the
yeah.
moment. I'm like clicked on yours and then I have to scroll down the screen so I can see the chat, but I can't see what you're doing.
Yep.
Bloody nightmare. But yes, anyway, that's my favorite one.
Nice.
Okay.
All right. Well.
So you'll next see us in Rotterdam.
We'll figure out some sort of fun podcast episode for you.
If you see us, come and say hello.
And you might
to us.
see us, yeah.
Come
We'll
and
have
say
our-
hello to us live on scene.
We might ask you a question to put into our podcast.
Might be a little bit janky, but just bear with us.
It's fine. We're gonna figure it out.
We'll be all right.
And podcast episodes every Wednesday at 2 p.m. MST, 9 p.m.
And
BST.
You got it.
10
9 p.m. BLT.
All the weird time zones. It's okay. Wednesday.
All
New
the time
episodes.
zones
We
around
should
the
just
world.
say new episodes every Wednesday. That makes it a lot
Can't
easier.
say that, I'm afraid.
We can-
No,
no?
you can't say that, I'm afraid. No, because Australia and Japan will be Thursday, won't it? Really? The world
leaving.
is just a nightmare. Yeah.
All right, goodbye. Give me my high five.
Damn you, Aussies. We love you. Oh wait, hang on. She's not even asked me to do my bloody bit yet.
What's your bit? Oh yeah.
Stay bold and brisk. Stay dreamy and delightful. Stay excellent and
You can
eggy.
stop that. Excellent and eggy. I do like that one. All right.
Yeah.
See you next week.
See you guys. Bye.